let's just go back to the sentiments of the president. He did go and attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and some of the things that he had mentioned from his trip and during the swearing-in ceremony just this week is that Rwanda looks like a European city. But just around some of these comments that he did make, what do you think Zambia needs to emulate?
I've always believed that Zambia has the potential to move from a third world that it is to the first world that it ought to be. And this is speaking from an idealistic point of view. Zambia has the kind of attributes that foreign investors are interested in. The peace dividend that we as Zambians take for granted is one of these elements. And Zambians need not underestimate the fact that we've been at peace for as long as we've been an independent nation. This is an enviable record. Zambia also has immense natural resources. Apart from copper, we also have a wide range of other minerals. Gold is now coming on board very significantly. Silver, and so on. So from a mining point of view, that is also one natural resource that we can leverage to, attract foreign direct investments. But we also have two other attractions, some of them tangible, some of them intangible, that present themselves in a wide variety. We also have an educated human resource that an investor shouldn't have a problem working with. The list goes on and on. And having served as a diplomat, one of the things that I noticed was that at a global level, you have huge resources that require tapping into. If only you have a diplomatic staff that is sufficiently skilled and dedicated to their duty, as opposed to what has been the state of affairs so far, that people just go on holiday. So it's a question of the kind of strategic leadership that is provided from State House, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, at the level of the head of mission. Why do I mention State House? If you ask yourself a question, do you have a position at State House, for instance, of a person responsible for foreign policy, who advises the president in foreign policy? You don't have. What you have is a policy advisor to the president. But I bet you that the policy advisor to the president is probably more dedicated to domestic policy than they are dedicated to foreign policy. But if you are to get a foreign policy advisor, you also need to have someone with credentials, such as someone that has served in foreign mission before, someone who probably is a distinguished scholar on matters of foreign policy, because these are the attributes and credentials that you find for most foreign policy advisors. But you also need to find the same in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You also need to find the same at the level of head of mission in strategic mission. But what I lament is that in all these strategic areas, appointing authorities have not really applied themselves to this. And it's well and good that the president can make all these statements. But I can tell you this, if the president's statements are not matched by some of these elements that I'm mentioning, where he is able to make appointments to these positions of people with those kinds of attributes, who continue to be admiring countries like Rwanda, when Rwanda is supposed to be admiring us.
And let's speak on public policy implementation. There are things that have come up now, like the CDF, which still has been delayed. Do you think that the government hasn't really been able to communicate adequately when we speak of implementing public policies and helping secure a public understanding of some of these public policies that have been made available to the public, like the Constituency Development Fund?
No, the communication around the CDF by government hasn't been strategic. What has happened so far is that the media on their own are able to pick what they see as stories and cover them. So the stories are being covered business as usual. And government appears to have taken the same approach like any other story. Now, if you know that this policy is so key, so important, what you then do is that you design a strategic communication approach around it. You do not allow the media to cover it like any other story. CDF has been touted by the president as a significant aspect of his domestic policy. So those individuals that task the responsibility to communicate must equally, put together communication resources that demonstrate the very importance that the president has attached to it. For instance, there's been a lot of negativity around the CDF. For instance, there are too many regulations, and it's so bureaucratic to access CDF. But then ask yourself this question: why is it that Rufunsa District Council just a few weeks ago announced close to 300 beneficiaries of bursaries out of CDF, and yet it was under similar regulations? Just yesterday, the Minister of Science and Technology, Mutati, was in Livingston at, I think it's Livingston Business School, where there are scores and scores of students that have benefited from CDF, but under similar regulations. Then you ask yourself, why? What is it that these are doing? Now, my suggestion is this. To those that are responsible for communicating government policy, my suggestion to you is this. Let the presidential spokesperson elect the director of ZANIS, because ZANIS, mind you, is a PR organ of government. Let the director of information at the Ministry of Information, let these three sit together. And when you sit together, together with a policy advisor to the president, and what they should be saying is this. They should be saying to the director at ZANIS that since we have all these reporters spread outside, across the country, can you begin to report on stories on CDF, the challenges of implementation as well as successes, and then also have the experiences of people, but please do not sugarcoat the story. And, let them also be included on the distribution of these news items so that they're able to monitor in real time how our CDF is performing, and then formulate a policy advice to the principal, in this case the president, for immediate intervention. So that's what you do when you know that the policy is important. You do not just sit back and think that reporters are going to do a job for you. Reporters will pick a story that they think is important. But for you to direct reporters in a strategic manner that this is important, you should be able to do something that attracts them to this story. By even taking them on conducted tours from time to time, you get the Minister of Local Government to do that. You get a district commissioner to do that, so that you create media events around them. Then the media will be able to get a cue that you attach importance to this. So far, none of that is happening.
All right, as we conclude this conversation and still on, what Rwanda is doing, if we look at generally how the African continent is, the different countries that are making strides. You spoke about mining being some of the policies that we can implement here in Zambia. But one topical issue that even prompted the president to speak about this in terms of Kigali looking like a European city is their level of cleanliness as it's been put. We've been talking about this in the central business district of Lusaka, all the Keep Clean campaigns we've been having, but it just seems this is not effective. I mean, during the Kenneth Kaunda Day this year, President Hakainde Hichilema was seen in the central business district of Lusaka going there and doing his part in trying to maintain cleanliness. But it just seem to be one-day activities. What do you think is the long-lasting solution as far as policies around this is concerned?
All this is about leadership. And then, I mean, our leaders think that, when you have all these, media-related, events like the president going out there to clean, and things like that, then the city is going to be clean. This has happened over and over again before. And I don't understand why our leaders do not appreciate or understand the fact that they do not have to do, populist things that are not sustainable. The president is not the cleaner of the streets. And there's no point in the president even getting a shovel